So here we go. Why we are here. So a lot of times, non-judicial punishment, adverse effects, actions like that just kind of become overwhelming. They fall on you as a person, and moving forward isn't like a roadmap that's just right there paved out to grab, right? So everybody here today is going to make an effort to educate everyone here on what they've done in the past, or what they're seeing as a commander, or from a command team perspective as a first sergeant or a chief. So that's where we're going to go. If you're not comfortable hearing somebody cussing, you're going to hear it. It's going to happen. We're not live, so don't feel nervous, but please have questions available. I can promise you, if you don't have questions, you're going to get popcorn. Chief Marshal, quote, it's going to happen. So have some questions. If we don't answer them while we're talking, then get it ready and it'll come out, okay? All right, so a little bit about me. Sergeant Narred. I work in the 96th Security Forces Squadron. I'm the NCOIC of Operations. I've been in around a decade, and I've got an Article 15 in my past. Anybody else? 15, LOR, LOC? All right, cool, right? How many folks have had a troop or an airman in here that has got 15 LOR, LOC in the past? Right, yeah. So the longer you're in, the more it's going to go. The longer it's going to grow both hands for all the old heads in here. That's good. So I joined the Air Force, kind of legacy. My dad's a Marine. He told me I wasn't going to the Marine Corps. My uncle was Navy. My other uncle was Air Force. My grandfather was Navy. My brother was Army. This was a thing. College baseball didn't pan out, so I was coming in regardless at this point. So came in, super motivated troop. Got to my first duty station. Got tapped for deployment. 9 months on station. And I went to Qatar. So found out it was more of a vacation than it was a deployment. But nevertheless, I went, right? While there, I got caught in a compromising situation about 5 months into the deployment. And by compromising, I mean I was asleep. For most troops, most folks, airmen, I don't know where your shop is, where you work. Sometimes maybe you get a nudge, hey, you get some rest, go home, whatever. In the cop shop, you weren't a gun, you don't sleep on post. It's not a thing, right? So right away, read my rights, put in cuffs, all that good stuff. That's just how it went, right? Maybe your story wasn't that route. Maybe it was more administrative, but that's how it went for me. Backstory into the deployment. Again, we were already like 5.5 months deep. I sat on the Airman's Council on this deployment. I sat on what was seemingly a base advisory council. And for anybody that's went to Qatar circa anytime after 2013, 2014, the Airman's Council they have there, like the ACE or the first floor or whatever, I started that with a group of people. So I was well known within the wing. I was being proactive. I was doing stuff. My commander knew me. He's from Georgia. I'm from Georgia. We're both dog fans. It was what it was. At the end of the day, it was business is business, right? Commanders have to maintain good order and discipline, and I had to get something. It could have been a lot worse. I'm very fortunate that it wasn't. I got a 15, reprimand, didn't get a suspended bust, didn't get sent home early. They let me finish out my time, but it kind of woke me up, right? Kind of a pun on a pun because I got caught sleeping, but it woke me up to the fact that maybe I need to be doing more, or maybe I need to take a step back and see if this is for me. And I knew right then and there, I got family support. Number one, I'd already let them down, I already let myself down, I already let my team down. And it wasn't the best portrayal of who I wanted to be, right? So I did learn in all this adversity. And I'll tell you, I was ROD'd, and for all of you that don't know that acronym, relief of duty, for 30 days, right? I put up CWIRE with OCNs, other country nationals. Sorry, I'm going to use acronyms a lot. We do it in the cop shop. I apologize. Anyway, I worked really, really hard for those 30 days. And that paid dividends when my commander made his action. But at the end of the day, I had to show my own motivation, my own internal fortitude, and my own resiliency to bounce back, right? Because nobody was going to do it for me. Crazy thing is, the paperwork from the deployment only came back home station because my initial EPR closed out downrange, and that's how it followed me. It's kind of weird, but not a single person talked to me about it. They were just, you're here, so we expect you to, move back. I know Major Goebel's going to touch on it a little bit, but if you're here and you've got a 15 or you got an LOR, LOC, then that means you didn't do something egregious enough for the Air Force to say bye, right? They still want you. They still have money and time and effort to invest in you. So how do you make the most of that? So I got back to home station. Again, nobody mentioned a word to it. I went back to work, kept grinding. A job opportunity popped up. I put in for it. It was between me and another guy, and I ended up getting the job. But it was question and then answer during the interview about what I had done in my past, why I had a referral EPR 2 years prior, and all that stuff. So it kind of affected that. And then the following year was the first year for enlisted force distribution boards, and it was kind of different then. Wasn't a whole lot of accountability at the initial stages, right? But I didn't get one. Right? I didn't get a strat. I thought I was the guy. I was maxed out on certs. I was in an NCOIC spot as a senior airman. It didn't happen. But the feedback that I got was basically the EPR needed to fall off, and I didn't really understand that. Well, either way, I put my nose down. I grinded. I won Airman of the Year, the squadron at the group, support staff Airman of the Year at the MAJCOM level. I made staff on my own without the stratification, and then I just kept going. From what I can say, looking back at the 15, it opened my eyes. I had to have some motivation. I had to have that internal fortitude, that resiliency. But that commander told me when he handed out my punishment, business is business. If you want to stay in my Air Force, you're going to have to work hard. So that's what I did. Led a deployment team after I left that last job, came back, made tech, and I reached back out to that commander when I put tech on that day. So that was circa 2019. I called him, and he was the A4 at Global Strike, full bird at this point. And he was like, damn, man, congrats. I'm glad to hear you were rehabilitated, that you moved on, you stayed motivated, and you didn't let it bring you down. He's like, that's what I wanted. I didn't know how to tell you that then. I can tell you that now, and if I ever see you again, let's have a beer. Let's chop it up. So it was really cool. That's really all I have about me. We're going to do a Q&A at the end again, so have your questions ready. Without further ado, Chief Barnshaw, you ready to go?
So I am vertically challenged. As much as I'd love to stand on that stage, I'm not going to. So hopefully I'll try to stay in camera range. If not, I will talk loud enough so where the camera can pick me up. So here's the deal. You kind of heard a personal story and what he went through. I want to touch on something a little different. Like the moral of my kind of talk today is twofold. One, there's always more to the story. There's always more than what you realize. Right? And number two, I want to talk to you about it from a supervisor standpoint. Not as a, hey, I did a great job as a supervisor, but holy shit, I had somebody that did a great job for me as a supervisor. Right? So that's the two avenues I'm gonna try to talk to you about today. So I too am the owner of an Article 15. The running joke is I like Staff Sergeant so much I made it twice. Obviously getting my rank now, that was some years ago. Cliff Notes version of my story. Hitting someone with a bottle is not like the movies. Like it's not like it's more like a really loud thud in the fall. Well, with that, Sergeant Barnshaw is quickly standing in front of his commander and he becomes Airman Barnshaw, right? And it was tough. I admitted what I did. I ate that sandwich. I took responsibility. I understood what I did was wrong. But when I tell you I was devastated, I was devastated. My career up until that point wasn't like all sunshine and rainbows, but shit, man, it was a career. I had just re-enlisted. We had PCS'd to Mildenhall in England. Like everything was good. And then that happened. And once that happened, like I became numb, like kind of ashamed. Like I didn't want to tell anybody. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being an airman, but going from an NCO to an airman, like that's tough. And the funny thing is, it wasn't the paycheck that bothered me. It was answering the damn phone that bothered me the most. I refused to answer the phone. I didn't want to answer the phone, Airman Barnshaw. Shit, I didn't even tell my mother until I sent her an email and forgot my damn signature block was on it. She's like, what the hell is this? And I'm like, shit, right? I was ashamed, I was numb, I was detached. And that started impacting me. Not Sergeant Barnshaw, not at that time Airman Barnshaw, but Jason. It started impacting Jason. I started to become numb. And my ex-wife, right, current wife at the time, but now ex-wife, it kind of derailed our marriage a little bit, right? And the two things I had going for me at the time, living in England, were my two boys. That's what kept me motivated. But I was numb at work, man. I wasn't answering the phone. I wasn't doing this. I wasn't doing that. Like I'm at the lowest of lows, or so I thought. I'm in England. Time difference is crazy. I get one of those middle of the night phone calls. This is about 3 or 4 months after I got my Article 15 and lost my strike. And on the other line is my mother, and she is frantic. I cannot make out what the hell she's saying. And then finally it comes clear. She's like, Jason, you don't understand, your grandmother's dead. I'm gonna be completely transparent. My initial thought was, grandmother, kind of old, makes sense. But then she hits me with it. No, you don't understand, Jason. She was murdered. She was beaten to death with a hammer. Fuck. So I already got this shit going on. My family don't have much. I hop on the first thing smoking to get home. Me and my cousin have to clean up because we don't have money to bring people in to clean up. My family's a complete fucking wreck. I try to be there as much as humanly possible that I can. I run out of leave and hop on a plane smoking and go back to England in that same shit show that I just left. Oh, and while I was gone, my wife decided to file for divorce and send the 2 boys that kept me going back home to the States with her parents. Dude, I was done. Done. Not once did my leadership at the time ask me, check on me, anything. All they knew was that I was going through some non-judicial punishment, lost my stripe, lost all that other stuff. But not once was somebody intrusive. Yes, I could have spoke up. I will eat that portion of it. I could have voiced what was going on and what I was struggling with. I'll eat that portion of it. Right? But there's enough blame to go around. And not once did I have a supervisor, section chief, commander, first sergeant, anybody be intrusive with me and find out what the fuck was going on outside of the non-judicial punishment. So when I tell you I was done, I was done. Fast forward a few more months, orders come. And the funny thing is about non-judicial punishment, for the folks that don't know, is it travels with you. Not only does it travel with you, it usually gets to your location before you do. So here I am with orders to Shady J, Seymour Johnson, North Carolina. And before I get there, my paperwork does. And everybody's sitting around looking at my paperwork, asking themselves, who's going to take this piece of shit? His career's done. Stick a fork in him. Who's going to take him? I'm going to be completely honest. I don't even know if I would have taken me at that point. Until one man walked into that meeting late. And I didn't find out he walked into that meeting late until about 7 years later. But one man walked into that meeting late, asked them what they were talking about. They caught him up to speed, and he simply said the phrase, I'll take him. I'll take him. And that's what he did. Retired Senior Master Sergeant, GS-12, Mr. Byron Ash. This man is the alpha and the omega when it comes to my career. When I tell you I love this man, I love this man. He was there for me, supported me, encouraged me, listened to me, challenged me, put a boot in my ass when I needed it. He gave me everything I needed to heal me. Not Airman Barnshaw, not Sergeant Barnshaw, but Jason. When my father passed away, he filled in that role. He was the first person outside of my wife that I called when I found out I made chief. He will be at my retirement. He was at my wedding. When I tell you I love this man because he did one simple thing, and he called it GAS, G-A-S, since everybody loves their acronyms. He gave a shit, and that was it. He did nothing special. He didn't walk around with pom-poms and shit. He just gave a shit. He was there. He listened. He encouraged. He picked me up when I kept making mistakes after mistakes after mistakes, and I came to him as a broken down airman. Stayed with him for a lot of years, and I left him as a brand new Master Sergeant. He was always there, always texting, always asking questions, always asking what's going on, everything. He was intrusive as shit, and I loved it because I needed it. And I didn't have it at my previous thing, right? So just know that yes, it did take a while, right? And there were many bumps in the road to get to where I'm at now. But I promise you this, I would not be standing here today if I did not have a supervisor in Mr. Ash who gave a shit. Period. I don't know where I'd be. I have no clue. So the moral of my story, what I want to pass on is twofold, just like I opened up with. One, there is always more going on than you realize. So with that, supervisors, leaders, first sergeants, I don't give a shit, commanders, be intrusive and ask questions. If you are the one going through it, don't do what I did. I bit my tongue, thought I was strong, thought I could handle it myself. Speak up. Speak up. Tell folks what's going on. Like, I get paid for a lot of things. Mind reading ain't one of them. Right? I had to eat some of that. Right? That's the first. And the second is just give a shit. Understand your folks are going to hit roadblocks. If you're looking for perfection, you are constantly going to be disappointed, saying nobody in this room, including everybody that's going to get up here and talk to you, can even come close to attaining that. There's always more going on, and be intrusive. Get in their damn business, even if they don't like it. Your job, your job as a supervisor when somebody is going through this, is one purpose and one purpose only, is to help them. It is not to make them happy. Yes, you want them to be one and the same, but when you get put in a situation to help somebody and make them happy, always choose to help them. And that means telling them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Pushing them on things they need to do, not what they want to do. Putting a boot in their tail end when they need it. I promise you, going through it, that's what I needed. Most of you in here that have hit challenges, hit roadblocks, hit obstacles, that's exactly what you needed. Pay that shit forward. That's what everybody here is trying to do right now. Pay it forward. And if you are going through something, trust and believe there are countless, not just resources, but people that want to help you. Just ask. Cool? That's all I got. I'm out.
Well, if I learned one thing from today is I hope to never have to speak behind Chief Barnshaw ever again, because I'm going to sound like a bumbling idiot compared to that. Good night.
I'm a talking head.
Shit, I'm fired up. I'm ready to go on the wall right now. Good morning. I'm a Senior Master Sergeant Crider. I'm going to start off by telling you I should not be here today. Absolutely, without a doubt, I should not be here today. I only have not one, but two Article 15s. I didn't learn my lesson the first time. So let's rewind back to 1997, probably before some of y'all were even born. Coming through the gate of Shepherd Air Force Base, drunk as shit, passed out. They pulled me out of the cab, walked behind the guard shack, started to take a leak. Cops didn't really like that a whole lot. Problem with that is, not only was it public indecency and drunken and disorderly, I was only 19 years old, so big problem. 3 charges started off my 5 months into my 25-year career. So I stepped foot in Tyndall Air Force Base right down the road. The first thing Master Sergeant Barnhart said to me was, "I know who you are, and I'm going to make it my goal before I retire to kick you out of the Air Force." So that was day one of my active duty career in my first base. Did learn my lesson. Back in the day, I'm a maintainer. I have to say that right now. I'm an aircraft maintainer. The culture we had back in the day was, "Oh, you got an Article 15? No worries." And most of my NCOs and the airmen that I was learning from, like, you're not even a real maintainer until you have an Article 15 or a divorce. So, that's really how they thought about it. And so I just kind of kept my head down and worked. I stayed at Tyndall for 6.5 years. I left there with no decoration or anything because I got there with an Article 15, and they get there with an Article 15, regardless what you do, you don't get a decoration. So I go to the next base, Kadena. Fast forward to 2008. So I had just recently got through a divorce. So now I'm truly a real maintainer because I had an Article 15 and a divorce. Problem with that divorce is I had all this new freedom, other than the time I was spending with my kids. So I decided to use that freedom by partying with my maintainer buddies. And when the money ran out that I had, to party with my maintainer buddies. Sometimes I felt the need to pull out my government travel card and use some of the government's money, to supplement. So I thought, I thought it was slick. I thought if I paid it by the end of the month, nobody would notice. And I got away with it for a little bit. But when you go out process to your next assignment, your GTC monitor looks at your records before they transfer them to the next base. So I had an assignment to this beautiful island out in the middle of the Atlantic, the Azores, chilling there for a couple years. So I got out of process, and then he brings up this record. And the GTC monitor, staff sergeant like I was, he's doing his job. He's like, man, I got to tell somebody about this. So he reported to the first sergeant and commander. So I go in 2 days later thinking I'm doing the out processing briefing with my commander. No, sir. I was getting served in Article 15 for misuse of the government travel card. I knew what I was doing. I was being an idiot. I really was. But it's a tale of two careers. That day was probably the best day of my life. So after I got the Article 15, Staff Sergeant busted down to Senior Airman. I still had child support and all that, so I would teach, aircraft maintenance during the day, and then I would have to go deliver pizzas and make pizzas at night at Papa John's. So if anybody ever been to Langley in 2005, 2000, I probably made your pizza if you ordered from Papa John's. And then I had an awesome first sergeant. She knew the struggles I had with, finances, paying child support, and all of that. And there's a OCN job, back then it was a TCN job, to Bagram Air Force Base. So she knew my struggles, so she called me. I was calling her when I seen it pop up in the email, and she was calling me at the same time. Hey, Airman Crider, you want to go on this deployment, kind of reset and whatnot? And I'm like, man, I've been trying to call you. I'm desperately want to go on that. I don't need Afghanistan, Kuwait, you name it. I was ready to go somewhere to reset and try to offset some of that money that I got. Didn't tell you in that time, though, before that, I found out I'd made Tech Sergeant too. So I lost my strike in May, and the results for Tech came out in June, July timeframe. So I was a Senior Airman with a line number for Tech Sergeant. So tell me if that doesn't, kick you in the teeth a little bit. So I go on deployment, and much like the Chief said, answering the phone as Airman so-and-so, that sucks. But I was a 10-year Senior Airman taking orders from, 5-year staffs. And I had to eat that. And that was a pride thing that I had to eat hard. But, military's military, NCO Airman, there's a rank structure. So I get through that deployment. I'm leaving Afghanistan, and I get this email. I have a DD Form 214 in my records. Anybody know what that is? That you're out of the military. So you're an airman over 10 years in the Air Force. Guess what? You've reached high year tenure. So I couldn't test. I couldn't do anything. I was in Afghanistan waiting on a ride home. I'm out of the military. I technically didn't have to go back to work. I could ride home, and I'm done in the military. But there's one woman that saved my ass and saved my career. Well, actually two. I'll get to the second one next. Major Charity Banks, now Colonel Charity Banks. I get back, tell her my situation. She's the new commander. She's not the commander that administered the Article 15. Tell her my situation, and she's like, there's really nothing we can do other than, forgive me if I'm wrong, I may be wrong about this, shirts. It's either mitigate or set aside punishment.
Set aside.
So none of this stuff's waiverable. I'm out of the military. So the only way that I can stay in the military is if they set aside all those punishments. So Major Banks at the time called Major Gardenauer, the previous commander that administered the Article 15, was asking my character and all that. And he basically is like, shit, I didn't realize this was going to happen to this guy. I have no issue with you set aside the punishment. So basically, she set aside my punishment, all of it, for me to stay in the Air Force. That means I got my original Staff Sergeant data rank back. I got back paid the whole time I was in Afghanistan as an airman. I didn't get to keep my assignment, I lost that. But my dumb ass even asked if I could have the tech stripe back too. She's like, let's not push it. And I said, yes, we're not going to push it. But, so she saved me. She saved me. And then the next woman to save my life was, since I didn't go to didn't go to lodges, I stayed at Langley. And then I met the woman that is now my wife. And she is amazing. She was a Hampton police officer. So if I needed to marry anybody, it was going to be a police officer at that time. Because I wasn't living right. And she didn't drink, she doesn't, party and all that. And so we started dating and all that. And then basically she's like, hey, you got to change your life or we can't be together. So, woman I love, hanging out with the boys. Sorry, boys, you're not that important. So going through my career after that, I go to Langley, or I go to Lake Mead, Beale and all that. And yeah, I'm carrying that referral EPR with me everywhere. They know I'm going, but some of the stuff that I did to recover from that is, staffs and tech, or staffs and airmen can still text. To, recover, for me to overcome some of the points lost for EPRs and all that, is I control what I can control, and I studied my butt off and I crushed that test every year. Every year I tested, I control what I can control, and I studied. I made master the first time with a referral EPR in pocket. I made tech the year after I lost it by studying my butt off. I made senior by studying my butt off. But with all that said, I own all those mistakes that I did. When I got my second ARC-15, and even my first, I never asked a single person for a referral or a statement of reference or anything, because that was embarrassing to me. I had to own that. I didn't need somebody to, and don't take this as me telling you not to do that. I highly recommend you do that. This is my personal thing is, I didn't want to ask anybody to give me a reference after I had messed up. That was embarrassing for me. I knew I messed up, and I had to own everything I did. So ownership for me is big. And then yesterday I had the privilege of emailing now Colonel Charity Banks, and to let her know that her decision was not in vain, because tomorrow I get promoted Chief Master Sergeant.
Hell yeah.
Whoop. Yeah. You got to play the long game in this. You got to understand, I've been in 25 years. I know chiefs that retired before that have been in the same amount of time as me, that's been, been chief for years and already retired. So if you want to recover, you got to understand it ain't quick. It is a long process sometimes, especially to get to the Chief Master Sergeant. And you can never give anybody a chance to second guess your integrity or your willingness to try at any time. Thank you.
Come on. Riff together?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Hi guys, I'm Lafaurie. I'm first sergeant over 96H cost. Been in for 20 years. Lucky enough to be stationed overseas for 18 of it. And I would say I would not have gotten where I am today without Master Sergeant Bell. I think one thing that you hear echo from those first two rows over there is some form of support from either one person or a group of people that they confide in, that rally around them, that regardless of what happened or the mistake, right, you hear all of them own what they did, and then somebody stepped up to the plate and said, we got you. And I think that's like all anyone can ever ask. of any of us, because we're in this together. Whether you're joint forces, whether you're civilian contractor, right? You hear it from the SMSgt to the CSAT. We're total force integration. And you can rely on every single one of those people to rally around you if you own any mistake you make in this Air Force. It is not a one mistake Air Force or one mistake military, short of a few things. I got an Article 15 as well, and my person is Master Sergeant Bell. I've never seen, as an airman, I've never seen a mass sergeant, right, go directly at a commander and just stand up for me, saying that the work that I do and everything I've done for the unit, and, right, this one mistake that I made should not define who I was as an airman. So I'll be forever indebted to him. I'm not going to go with the long story because we're also up here to talk about the first side of the house, and we look forward to questions. But over to you, Bossman.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Eric Nardacci, first sergeant up at the 6th Special Operations Squadron, Duke Field. Been in the Air Force 20 years now. Not always a first sergeant. Been a first sergeant for about 4 years, but before that, C-130 crew chief, moved on to C-17. So, as a maintainer, I mean, bumps and bruises have happened to me from day one, and I can even share it. Like, I've been at Moody for maybe 6 months, and they were, because I was a good airman, they were sending me up to Warner Robins for cadmium floor panel to get our pick up floor panels that were cadmium plated. I was with a staff sergeant friend of mine, and we decided to park the truck at exit 145 and I-75. I'm not sure if it's still there, but it was called Cafe Risque. It was a place to get lunch, all right. But I mean, I'm a great airman, right? I'm listening to this staff sergeant with. I'm not going to put his name on blast, but I walked out of that TDY, right? I mean, I took a hit, big hit, right? I grew up before I joined the Air Force, right? I was not a great person, right? A lot of ups and downs. Thought I could do a lot of different things. I was a businessman. I was doing this. Went to college, got kicked out. So I was like, at that time, I was like, maybe I'll just join the family business. Every one of my uncles, my father, everyone was military. So I think I always knew I had that fallback, right? So I was like, oh, I'll just join the Air Force. It's about time. So it's probably a good thing I was not stationed at McGuire when I first came in, or I guarantee I wouldn't be standing here telling a story. It was good that they put me about 1,200 miles away from all my friends. All of my friends growing up, most of them are dead because of life choices they kept doing. Some have been to jail. There's some that are still alive, right? It's not all doom and gloom, but a lot of my friends are not alive. So what I'm saying is there's a lot of things that we can do, right? This whole administrative action thing, it becomes a very lonely place. We come from voices of reason, right? If you did something and own it, like when I got back from Warner Robins that day, and Wendell Dunlap, I'll put him on blast, he was my flight chief, but he was a great guy. I was standing in his office and he was yelling. I don't even know what he was saying. But it was the type of yelling where it's just like screaming at you. And I was like, what are we doing? So I'm just standing at attention getting screamed at. And then later, that's when I met my first sergeant. Right? I never met him before that day. That's when I met my first sergeant. They were talking to me. Before you know, you're starting to get paperwork and your life is getting weird. But those times, always having those people around you that'll take care of you. One of the biggest, the guy that got me through all of that was that, I mean, hard as a rock staff sergeant that was that same maintainer. Like, you can get beat up. Come on, just keep taking the hits. We're going to be good. But what I have always learned is while you have that spotlight on you, same thing. If you got an Article 15, LOR, UIF, control roster, you have a spotlight on you. Take advantage of the spotlight. The other 95% of the airmen in your squadron probably don't have a spotlight on them. So take advantage of having the spotlight. That's when you perform. Some of the guys that I've seen and some of the gals that I've seen that bounce back the best, take that advice, have that spotlight, and what you do defines you when that spotlight is on. Take advantage of it. We see it as first sergeants all the time. We have airmen that get the hit without the ownership, right? Like, we know this happened. Like, you don't have to own it, but like if you at least say like, hey, I'll take this, I'll still be a good airman. I'll still do exactly what I'm supposed to do. And now I'm gonna take advantage of the spotlight. And I'm gonna perform like you've never seen before. But keep that momentum. Because I've seen plenty of people talk about Article 15s and get all the way to, Chief Master Sergeant Select. Article 15 does not ruin your career. There is nowhere on that form, the 3070, anyone that's gotten one seen it. The back talks about max punishment. None of the max punishments are kicked out of the Air Force. It is a tow truck the commander puts out there to pull you back onto the lane and say, hey, this is still a rehabilitative tool. It might not feel like it if you're a senior airman and you get bumped down 2 stripes or lose 1 stripe and suspend another. It might not feel like you're trying to rehabilitate me, be like, you're taking my money from me. But it's still a rehabilitative tool. Because we don't need an Article 15. The commander does not need an Article 15 to separate you. If they're giving you an Article 15, it still means they have hope. Sometimes you might not feel like you don't have the hope. You don't feel it on the inside, but just to know if they offer that 15, and those are key words, offer. They're offering you this opportunity to take the 15 and trust leadership will make the right decision when it comes to whatever type of punishment that comes out of it. Instead of saying, I don't want this 15, I want to go see a judge. Understand that could play out way different. That could play out way different. So that tool, when that commander says, hey, here's that hope, right? It's gonna take a lot to get you back on track. That tow truck might hurt. It might take food off your table. Heck, it might be the reason you get divorced. But it's not the reason you're not getting paid on the 1st and the 15th. You're still getting a paycheck. Career is very linear. Not everyone ever gets to retire at 30 years as a Chief Master Sergeant. Less than 1% of the people that ever put this uniform on will get that opportunity. So to say my career is ruined because that can't happen, less than 1% of the greatest airmen in this Air Force will ever get that opportunity. Career is very linear. If you are a staff sergeant, you can retire at 20. We never kick you out. Your career stays very linear. You might lose some opportunities and there'll be exit ramps that you can't take. But you're not out. What you do when you have that spotlight on you might be the reason you're not. They took 2 stripes, now I'm gonna start doing this other thing. I'll show them. Understandably, as first sergeant, it's like you could be separated from the Air Force with a notification discharge in like 15 days. So, from the time of you doing something to 15 days later, if you are an airman, you could be separated from the Air Force. So when you're in the commander's office getting something like that, or have seen it or gotten that, if they're not reading a discharge memorandum and they're just talking Article 15, your career's not ruined. You may have lost some exits, but your career isn't ruined. So that's one of those myths you kind of got to get. Dispel the myth that the career is ruined. Some options are ruined. Some exit ramps might not happen. Alcohol-related incident, Article 15, you might not get to go to Korea. They're not going to let you go to the soju party. But they'll let you stay at Herbert Field, Eglin, Duke Field. They'll let you PCS anywhere in the compass. Hell, they might let you PCS to USAFE. You just might not get to go to PACAF. But that's not necessarily where we need you. If you have a potential for abusing alcohol. Everyone hears the rumors. Anyone that's been in the PACAF theater, there's drinking going on. There's a lot of other crazy stuff going on, and sometimes when you're taking ADLS and you're doing CBTs, you don't know why you're doing that CBT until you go TDY to PACAF. But that's what I'm saying. So understand that the 15 is a tool to get you back on track. It is the commander's tow vehicle. You have hit the guardrail, you missed the little rumble strips, the LOC didn't catch you, you hit the guardrail, the LOR, you didn't bounce back into the lane, you flipped over into the ditch. When the commander shows up with his tow truck, it's to get you back on the highway. It's not to tow you to the boneyard. Does that make sense? So what I'm saying is take advantage of the opportunity that you're given when you have it. Take advantage of it. Because you might be at that time the only person with that spotlight. And while you have that spotlight on you, song and dance, look good, but keep the momentum. If you keep the momentum, sky's the limit, obviously.
Sky's the limit.
We got two prime examples. You get to be a part of that less than 1% of the Air Force. That could just be a data point at some point in your career, right? Because when you're talking about making some of these higher ranks, going from master to senior, it's a 5-year story. If you've gotten past that 5-year story, but the new 5-year story version of you is decorations, accolades, all this, because you kept that momentum from that 6 years ago. Senior is an option. When you're talking about chief, it's a short story. It's a little bit longer, but obviously you can get there. So bouncing back is reality, but understanding when you're in those places, it is lonely. And hopefully, I myself as a first sergeant, I take advantage of talking to my airmen. And just like there's great first sergeants, there's not good first sergeants. Just like there's great chiefs, there's people that are wear chief master sergeant that probably don't deserve it. There's something in their records that got them to that point, but they're not the chiefs that you want to be around. They're not the first sergeants you want to be around, and there's commanders that command squadrons that are not good at it either. I've been a first sergeant for 24 commanders. They're not all the best. They're all commanders. So.
Yeah, for sure. His 5-point lesson really hits home for me. And I coach kids. I've been doing it for 19 years. And when he says that 5-year window snapshot of your career, right? I relate that in conversation to a lot of people in matches. We play a game of 25. You can turn that into 25 years if you want it, right? You're battling all kinds of things. You're battling for your time. You're battling for your goals, your personal life, your personal achievements. And when you have all these things that occupy your time, sometimes you're losing the game 5-0, but then there's the next 5. Maybe now you win the next 5-0. So you're back at a 0-sum game. What is the next 5 points going to look like, right? If you're losing 3-2 because you got an LOC, right? Turn that into a 4-1 and you're up. The conversation of your response to adversity, your response to those tough conversations when you have your airman walk into your office, or the things that you face when you walk into our office, your chief's office, man, I promise you, we take it seriously. And for Chief, I don't want to mess up your name. Sorry, Chief, can you say that one more time?
Which one?
You're
Crider.
Yes, sir.
So you senior, sorry. Crider.
Crider,
Yeah.
right? Chief Crider. This is something that we have non-stop debates about, and so does Chief Barnshaw and soon to be Chief Crider, about second, third order effects. I promise you, as a first sergeant, it's not just this person did this, they get this because everyone else on the base gets it. Let's make sure they get it. We consider, right, if we take your stripe and you're at a certain year, what happens next, right? Will you get to be able to re-enlist? Will you get to the next promotion cycle? Or if we take your stripe, are we ending your career? We consider all these things. So rest assured, it's not automatic, and it is every single case by case in conversations with legal advisement. And again, we are advisors to the commanders who make decisions. Everyone does not get the same version of every person, but the mentors you choose, right, the 5 closest people that make you who you are, can help you navigate it. But if you don't ask, right, no one will know, because we don't get paid. I cannot, I mean, this is a really cool forum, a very non-formal, informal forum for us to just tell stories and be human. Because underneath this uniform, we all are. How many of you guys have received paperwork in your career? Right? 95% of the room, real quick. May I ask, for those of you who didn't raise your hand, what made you come to the Bounce Back seminar?
I've had to give paperwork out to airmen in the past, and it's just something that I just wanted to learn more about what people's views were.
what was the most challenging thing to you having to issue paperwork to an airman?
I guess the most challenging thing was along the lines of it sort of snowballed. So it started small, a small mistake, just kind of a verbal warning type of thing. And then it kind of turned into starting with an LOC and then an LOR and just trying to figure out the best way to navigate that and try not to have an airman just lose hope because of a mistake here and there. So,
Awesome. I have an analogy for that. I saw some other hands. Ma'am?
Well, I'm here to learn how to be a more, not just empathetic leader, but a leader that can learn from the history of others before me. Because there's going to be people that I'm going to lead that I would like to learn how to navigate well in advance before those actions come. Like you see the patterns and try to avoid it before we have to do some of those things. I can prevent that, and I can give someone that hope and that inspiration to be a better leader before we even have to go that route. And if you do have to go that route, show them that there is hope in the path.
Absolutely.
I really want to learn. That's my opinion.
Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you. Sir?
Pretty much touched on it.
Cool. My analogy for both of those, right, is whenever individual people come in my office, I go right to my whiteboard specifically, and I just tap on the board with a dry erase marker. And I let them know, hey, there's a piece of pepper, right? Too much pepper, the place gets hot. So, hey, your supervisor had a conversation with you on this date. Bam, I tapped the board with a dry erase marker, right? On this day, he wrote an MFR because he had another conversation with you, right? This is effort given to correct your behavior, right? Boom, now you got an LOC. Boom, now you got an LOR, right? Do you see, and as I'm tapping this board, do you see where this is going, right? Do you think that's really hot or not? He's like, yes, sir. Well, this is the attention that you're getting, and you keep dotting the board. If you don't correct, right, if your response to this adversity continues along this path, you will no longer be here. You won't have this amazing support and this. Look how many people just showed up because you guys care. This is awesome to see.
So why do we have discipline, right? What's kind of the whole point? We talk a lot about maintaining good order and discipline. And it's not just about course correction for that one airman, right? It's about the whole team, right? So if everybody else is busting their ass doing the right thing all the time, so-and-so is off doing the wrong thing and nothing happens, right? That hurts the team as well. And that's not okay. It doesn't match up with our values, it doesn't match up with our standards. And that's why we have tools in place to correct it. Okay? But it's like we were saying before, those tools aren't necessarily, depending on what happened, to squash that career, to end it. Okay, it is to correct it. Okay, you can look at it from a purely numbers game if you want to be super objective about it. Okay, the Air Force has invested in every airman by bringing them in through basic, by getting them through tech school, getting them to a base, right? We want those airmen to continue. We want you to succeed. We need you to succeed. We need you to do well. We want the people back on track. Okay, if something so egregious that it's well beyond an LOR, it's going for straight to separation, that's a different story, right? But we're talking about places where you can bounce back. Talking about giving a shit. Ownership. There's a lot of ways to react to getting in trouble, right? You can kind of just close in from it. Okay, you can kind of fight back against it. You can have a chip on your shoulder, or you can own it and fix it. And that comes across from the moment of what they call discovery, right? It's when the first other person in the unit, whether it's a supervisor or a defender at the gate, or kind of finds out what happened. Okay, how are you going to react to that situation? That's going to depend on a lot of things, because of how you're going to react. It's going to depend on your why for serving. It might be patriotism. Okay, it might be supporting your family. It could be your own identity, but that why is key. Does anybody know who Viktor Frankl is?
He was in POW camps or the Holocaust.
That's right, he was in the Holocaust. He was
wrote
Academy. So Viktor Frankl, a Jewish doctor who survived Auschwitz, and right after he was liberated, he wrote A Man's Search for Meaning. And he says, paraphrasing a little bit, but if a man has a why, he can endure any how, right? So you got to latch on to why you want to serve, why you want to be here, why you want to continue. Is it for your teammates? Is it for your pride, your sense of identity? You need to pick that. And then once you have that, you need to decide to win. Just like any other situation in life, whether it's a fight, and you're no kidding fighting for your life, okay, whether it's going through a challenging pipeline or a challenging tech school, there's a point where you have to decide, I'm gonna win this. Okay, I'm going to attack this problem, I'm gonna go for it. Some of the best advice, right? Hey, you've got that spotlight on you. How are you gonna use it? Right? Hey, you look at huge squadrons with hundreds of airmen in them. Again, that spotlight is on you now. If you're in trouble, how are you going to take that forward? If you're able to, are you going to volunteer for this or that? Are you going to be up front? Are you going to bring problems up that are there and kind of find a way forward to fix them? You go for it. Okay, it's up to you how to decide. And I think as Americans, we all love a good underdog story, right? That's just kind of our thing. Think of what's the hockey movie? USA Hockey, Miracle something. What's that movie?
It's Miracle on Ice.
Miracle on Ice. Okay, right? So, why do we love that story? It's a bunch of underdogs. Okay, maybe I got it wrong, but it's a bunch of underdogs, right, fighting against these super athletes that were, I don't know, maybe all drugged up. But it's an underdog story. That's why we love it. And as leaders, okay, we love the same thing. Why? Because a lot of us have that similar situation, and we're rooting for you. Do we want to see you win? We want to see you get past this. And we want to see you give a shit for the same airmen that now you'll be leading. Okay, we want to see you care for them and lead them and take them forward, because that's what we need. That's how we survive. I mean, not to get too uber patriotic or anything, but strategically, okay, the strength of this military is in its NCO Corps. It's the backbone of the military, right? And why do we do so well compared to other militaries? Because we have enabled, strong leaders at that level who are ready to take teams forward and move. Okay? That's what we want. We want to see you bounce back. And honestly, I want leaders in my unit who have grit, right? Young leaders who are tough, who are resilient, who are able to take a blow and then keep moving forward. So be that guy or girl, right? Guy or gal, man or woman. Be that airman. And one important thing to talk about too, that kind of came up a couple times, is how an event like this can affect your identity. Right? How it can affect your kind of sense of self. Right? It came up a couple times how hard it is answering the phone, right, and not being able to use the same rank that you just had because you made a mistake or you did something wrong, right? And now you're dealing with those consequences. Okay, and that's tough. But you gotta push forward and past it. You have to have that why, you have to have that vision, okay, to get beyond it. And know that people are rooting for you. Another kind of common denominator in some of the stories we had is somebody in that unit, whether it was a first sergeant or a commander or a supervisor, right, reaching out and saying, hey, you're my guy. Okay, I've got you. I care about you. I'm going to see you do better. I'm going to push you to get to where you need to be. So be that person too. You don't have to have an incredible story of resiliency and overcoming big challenges to be that person. You don't have to be like the greatest leader in the world. You can be horrible at talking to people. You can stumble over your words and be super awkward, but you care. And if you care and you're sincere about it, people will know and they'll respond to that. Okay, we all need that in our careers, in our lives. So be brave and be that person. So, good to go. All right.
Staff Sergeant Christian, 96 Security Forces Squadron, is kind of for the whole panel or anybody who might have some experience with it. Had a troop come to me from another location. She had Article 15, control roster, UIF. She was busting her tail wanting to go to school. I had no prior experience or knowledge on how to help her get that removed. She had done her minimum sentence, I guess if you will, was looking at, finishing out the maximum. Every other person who got in trouble with her with that same scenario had already had theirs removed because they didn't PCS. So I was wondering if you guys had maybe any guidance on where to go if that was to happen.
She was trying to go to school is what we're saying? Like that was one of the things that you were trying to get that opportunity back to her?
Yes, sir.
So because she had the control rosters, the viewing window, nothing's really going to happen for 6 months with that. But that UIF that comes with the not being able to go to school, that's a 2-year. That's like a 2-year window. It's really one of the only things you lose is the ability to go to school on the government dime with TA, essentially. So you don't really get the opportunity to not go to school, but you get the opportunity to lose money for it.
But sure, I think what she's saying is that everybody else that got the same punishment already got their UIF removed. She's already en route, or she's already here. So everybody back at the previous duty station where this happened,
Yes.
the UIF is already gone. So
Or they
would
might
that
not
be
even
like
have
reaching
gotten
back
it.
command team to command team?
So if you knew for a fact that those people back there got UIFs, commander probably just vacated the UIF so those people could get back on track. But there is times when you might have like 3 people get in trouble, but one's PCSing. The one PCSing gets a UIF, so it travels with them. But the new commander at any time can do an Air Force Form 1058 and vacate the UIF. But a lot of times when you're new to a location, the commander's going to want a little bit of viewing. Like, hey, you're coming with this UIF. We don't know much about you other than this little snapshot story, maybe an EPR. So I'm going to keep that window maybe a little bit longer. Understandably, those people at the old station might not have it anymore, but that commander there might know more about those people. But at the same time, commander could always call another commander and say, hey, because sure, we do it. I'll call back to an old duty station and ask a few questions, especially when an airman shows up with a UIF that's kind of questionable. Be like, hey, this thing's about 1.5 years old. Did you guys ever consider vacating it? Or were you going to let this thing go for 2 years?
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Simple conversation with a commander and a first sergeant, UIFs can go away pretty easy.
Yeah, I think that's the first thing you need to do is you need to find out when that UIF started, right? You can talk to your first sergeant, get the RDD, right? It's got a disposition date on when that UIF's done. But I think as soon as you understand those 2 things and then what the airman has done since getting that UIF, you'll be able to advise her that airman better. But you got to understand the whole situation. It's what they did, when it started, what's the disposition date of that, and then, like Shirt said, it can be removed.
I mean, to give my context right, you are not in this member's chain or anything like that, so you basically have 0 authority, correct?
Not anymore, no, sir.
Yeah, okay.
So I was her supervisor, and it's kind of like a previous, I didn't really know what to do, and I wanted to take care of it. And we did reach out to the first sergeant. We did get a little bit of guidance, but it almost seemed like she hit a roadblock. So I was just trying to gather a little more information so that in case that happens again to me in the future, I could do better this time.
Yeah, and I think, the higher up you go and the more connections you make and people you supervise, like I can't tell you how many people I talk to that ask me for help that it's not my lane, right? I can't. So what I do at that point is I advise, right? One of the things as young leaders that you need to get really skilled in is the art of negotiation. Right? And I don't mean mind tricks and Jedi mind tricks and all this, but I promise you, you have to. And I try to teach this to my kids, and I'm not equating y'all to my kids, right? But a perfect example is my daughter wants to dye her hair, right? And she goes to her mother and says, hey, Mom, can I dye my hair? It's like, no, right? So I'm trying to teach her to rephrase the question the right way. So how do I rephrase that question the right way? Okay, hey, Mom, what would make you comfortable enough to allow me to dye my hair? Right? It's the same question, but it's phrased a different way, and you don't get an immediate no, right? When you are trying to help out individuals that you don't have authority over, right, that may be outside your lane, the best thing to do is advise them in strategic communication, right? This individual wants something. Who do they need to communicate it to, and how do they need to communicate it, right? You walk into the commander's office and say, will you remove this? No. Right? Or you could walk into the commander's office with facts and logic. I got this, I got this, I got this. What would make you comfortable to possibly consider removing this for me? It's a completely different phrased question. And you'd be surprised at the responses you get when you learn the art of negotiation and how to communicate with people in that sense. It is a art and a skill, but the folks that master it, it's good and bad, right? With great power comes great responsibility. You can manipulate the shit out of people with this. I would suggest you don't do that, right? But use it to your benefit to do things that you know are right.
Yes, sir, thank you.
Just by jumping in, right? A lot of times people will see a bad situation or a bad status. Or, yeah, I'm still under this file, this is still going on, and they'll just eat it and say, oh well, I guess it sucks for me, I'm just stuck with it. Oh, I thought it was going to go away after a year, but it's 13 months and it's still there. Oh well. Don't oh well it, right? Especially as a supervisor, get involved, ask those questions, ask what can we do, what is it going to take, right? Because then too, okay, well now they're giving you away, and you can attack them, right? You can make up your mind, you can decide you've got your vision and you get after it. Don't just settle. And it's easy when you're the one that's in the position that's received the discipline to start to feel bad for yourself and get to a pity party about, oh, I guess it's just how it is, right? You gotta break yourself out of it. And it starts by trying to find that way forward.
I'm Airman over at the 33rd Maintenance Squadron. I had a question pertaining to UAFs. I'm supposed to go to test for staff on May 4th. I wasn't sure if that makes it the UAF go away, because it's a similar question as that you had about education for TA. I was just trying to curious as to how that process works. You might have already, I know you kind of already answered it. It's 2 years for maximum, and I can feel the right way about speaking with my commander, but I thought I read that it stated that it will go away it can go away if I'm eligible for promotion or if I'm testing. So I wasn't sure on that.
Yeah.
It's exact. You're going to say same exact situation. Is the UAF on you?
Yes, sir.
Yep. You gotta.
It is only going to go away if it is removed. Other than that, it is going to take its time, right? It's going to have to hit its time period. So if you feel strongly enough and have done what you think you need to do, and you're excited for testing and you're putting in the work, the first person you talk to is your supervisor, right? I would highly recommend not going VFR direct to the boss, right? Talk to the supervisor, get their backing, section chief backing, first sergeant backing, senior enlisted leader backing, and then you go in there as one united front and ask what the possibilities are.
Yes, sir.
Right? That's how I would roll that. But yeah, unfortunately, if you just sit around, it's like Commander said, you sit around twiddling your thumbs, it's not going anywhere.
Yes, sir.
And here's the greatest part about asking the question, no matter how you ask it, right? Everybody knows this, it's an old cliche. And the answer is always no if you don't ask. And I think that's kind of what the Commander was alluding to. Like, don't just sit here and just suck it up and just like, oh, well, then guess what? You're going to be waiting, right? And here's the best part about it. If you do ask the question, and the answer does end up being no, guess what? You're in the same damn spot you are anyway.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Staff Sergeant Haynes with EOD. This is a question for pretty much the whole panel, but I think there's a perception amongst the lower enlisted that I've seen in the last couple of years that there are certain things that you used to be able to recover from that in today's Air Force seems to be either more difficult or not recoverable. I guess, is that an inaccurate perception in your mind, or is there something that actually is different about the Air Force 10, 15 years ago than today?
Well, personally, in my mind, I don't think it's changing in the sense, everybody's talking on. There's certain things that the Air Force focuses on that definitely not recoverable, and most of those things would typically go straight to court-martial anyway. But as far as, like I said earlier, though, anything is recoverable if you're willing to put the time into doing it. It's not you can't. I couldn't get an Article 15 and expect to promote right away. I mean, my situation was different because I got everything set aside. But if those punishments stuck, I would have had to play the long game. And it's just, you got to be patient. You really just got to be patient, But I don't think there's a difference between back then and now on what is recoverable and what's not recoverable. That could be wrong.
I think I said it too, like, certain things might close certain exit ramps, right? And certain opportunities might go away. Like I said, you might not get to be a chief and retire in 30 years. But the art of an Article 15 really is because you're not getting kicked out. Like, and I think that's one of the things. If you're not kicked out, you are recovering. Unless you're command team, and there's command teams that do it. I'll put them on blast. With like a headhunt mentality, not looking at second or looking at second and third order effects and making something not recoverable. If you got a bunch of money problems and then the Article 15 they hit you with is taking money, taking stripes and money, forfeiture or pay, money problems aren't going to get better. And they know that you're going to screw up and then you're going to pull the GTC out. Oh, look what we did. Like those headhunting tactics, you'll see it happen. It happens. But a 15 is not to destroy you. It's supposed to be a rehabilitation tool. And anyone that supports a 15 to destroy is doing it wrong. And that headhunting tactic is not right. But there is a process. Even if you get that, right? You're an airman, you get that destroyed Article 15, you don't think it's appropriate. There's a process beyond asking it for it to get set aside to go to the BCMR and say that this is an injustice. An injustice has been served upon me. And you can send it to AFPC, just like you want an EPR corrected, they can correct an Article 15 or any type of military justice that took place. As long as you have facts, because it's going to be a board of people that look at it and go, would another commander have made this same decision? Competent military authority, would they have made this same decision with the facts they had? Right? So unless you're deliberately given punishment that is designed to not recover, or take a couple stripes, we know you're at 12 years, right? Take a couple stripes and make it so you hit higher tenure, you're not recovering, you're getting out. We made it so you get out based on a punishment law. So most things are very recoverable. There's airmen with Article 15s that smoke marijuana that are still in the Air Force. Still in, not discharged.
Don't go smoke weed.
I'm not saying
Do not.
like right now, don't go to. I mean,
You're gonna get caught.
But so if there's things that aren't recoverable, you think the one thing that you can, like, we are not allowed to do that. There's airmen in this Air Force that are still in. So anything is recoverable. Bar being very egregious, crazy felony.
And one thing on changes too, like some things have changed over 20, 30 years from like when your great uncle was like fixing like 86 Sabres or something, right? So some things are less okay than they used to be, right? Sexual harassment is not accepted, it's not tolerated, okay? Cultures way long ago, okay, we're more tolerant of things they probably shouldn't have been. Right, same goes for maybe DUI, right? You look at it, and that's just not just the military, that's the whole country. Right? It used to be a long time ago, if a cop pulled you over and you were drunk, oh, they tell you just follow me home, right? Or I'll follow you to your house and make sure you get there, okay, right? It's not like that anymore. Right? So some things have certainly changed. It's probably for the better. As far as recoverable, not recoverable, you know right away. Right? And the kind of whole point of this is that unless you're out, right, you're still in. If you're still in, there's a way forward.
That's that profession of arms too. So like we are constantly judged. You've heard of all the riots, the protests, and people, whatever war it is, right? Vietnam was probably the biggest proponent of this. We are always being scrutinized and judged in this uniform. And it doesn't matter if you're wearing this or any of our sister services or whatever. That profession of arms, we're always getting judged, always getting looked at. It's always televised. The general officer that just got in trouble, that was like spotlight of the news for the last 2 years. But he is like the smallest percent of of us. And now everybody's going to see him when they look at us. You know what I mean? So that's why I think things have changed.
Yeah, for sure. If anybody doesn't know me, I'm Captain Mumford. I'm an attorney over at the Eglin Legal Office, which means that I'm a government hack. If any of you know somebody who's been in trouble or gotten Article 15, they don't come to me, they go to the ADC. ADC forms the attorney-client relationship with the individual airman. My job is to be an advisor to commanders and to the Air Force. So I'm Chief of Adverse Actions, so that means LORs, NJPs, Article 15s, all the way up to court martial. All that comes through the justice section, and I am aware of it, or I have personally touched it. So talking a lot about, I 1000% agree with what's been said. Anything is recoverable until it's not. There's always a door, there's always a possibility, but I think the main thing to be aware of is that every single shirt I talk to, every single commander I talk to, they care. They care about the job, they care about the mission, they care about their airmen. And they're thoughtful about how they go about enacting any kind of adjudication or NJP or LOR or anything like that. They really honestly think about it. Mostly because they end up having to talk to the legal office to get it off the ground anyway, and if some commander or some shirt comes in all hot around the collar, a lot of times the legal office will slow them down, we'll run it through fact by fact, because we do want to be fair and we do want to be just. That's our mission. Anything is recoverable. The main person driving your ability to recover is you. So much of the time I've seen LORs dropped, Article 15s dropped, not necessarily because the facts have changed, but because the commander sees you, understands you, and knows your attitude and knows how you can come back and wants to give you that opportunity. Like, we're all part of the profession of arms, right? We want to move forward together. We want to keep as many of us in and working and productive and take care of each other as much as possible, and your commanders really see that, and especially your first sergeants see that too. So keep that in mind. It's not just happening in a vacuum. Nothing happens in the vacuum. There are a lot of people who touch it, a lot of people who deeply think about these things as moving forward. But at the end of the day, it's your attitude and your drive and grit to recover, right? Does anybody play video games in here? A few people? So do you ever up against a really hard boss in a video game and you die 3 or 4 times in a row, and the first 3 times you go back to the last checkpoint that you were at, and you can move forward, and it sets you back, and oh, dang it, man. Then you go in and try to do it again, but then that 3rd or 4th time that you die, it sends you all the way back to your last save point yesterday or something like that. And it's really frustrating, right? It's now I have 3 more hours that I got to get to and recover these things or these weapons. I'm a total nerd, I'm sorry. Get all these weapons and do all this work again to get to the point that I was at just a few minutes ago, right? Same kind of principle, right? Sometimes it's, you're late to work, GTC misuse, can't get over, something is happening, and you can keep throwing yourself at the boss, or you can ask for help from your flight chief, or your supervisor, or your shirt, and you can move forward from that point, from the last checkpoint, from that last save point. And sometimes, I'm stubborn, I don't know about you guys, but I keep throwing myself at the wall, thinking the wall's going to break before I do, and I end up way back and losing a lot of time and effort. And at that point, that can feel really, 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 really devastating. But the point is, you're still in the game, right? You're still in the game, you have a new perspective, you can absolutely move forward.
Thank you, man.
Senior Aaron Harless from 96 Men's Group. I had a question about this in general. What's the difference between the spotlight and headhunting tactics? Just because sometimes it can feel the same. You said either you can, shine in the spotlight, or what happens if that spotlight turns into a headhunt? What is there things that airmen or staffs can do to try to avoid that?
I'd say with the spotlight, when you have that spotlight on you, right? And I was saying earlier, keep that momentum. Take advantage of being the one with the eyes on you. When you have the eyes on you, do those things, step up, volunteer, look for opportunities to excel, so that you hit that old save point, right? And you keep moving forward. You know how to get to where you were before. But when you're saying about headhunting tactics, if you feel like you got an Article 15 with and there's no way to recover from it, I think we hit a little bit if you're not out of the Air Force, you're in the Air Force, right? So the spotlight thing is more of just take advantage of when everyone's got their eyes on you. Don't keep going down the path that got you to that point to begin with, right? That's probably the best thing. like I said, I've seen airmen take Article 15s right on the chin and run with it, right? And do great things afterwards. But I've seen the airmen get an Article 15 and it completely, I mean, because it could take you down to a real lonely place, right? Answering the phone as a different rank. Or you start to lose, maybe even lose friends. Maybe whatever you did, like, it segregated you from a friend group, or it moves you to a different shift. So like the original wingmen that you had aren't there anymore. So it becomes a lonely place, and that's where it's like first sergeants, supervisors, leaders, commanders, chiefs, like, we have to know our people. We have to know when you're in that dark place and when you're lonely. I think first sergeants understand it a lot too. Is one great thing about being a first sergeant is we get to meet like the 10% of the Air Force that does amazing things all the time, but we also get to meet the 10% of the Air Force that are terrible monsters. You know what I mean? Like, we have this give and get. I think there's other career fields out there that get to meet those same people as well, but most of the time it's at the 80 in the middle, right? We don't know how they're doing. You're like, so we gotta ask questions. Like, even if it's not you and it's a friend, you know that they got in trouble. Be there for them more. Put your hand, like, open up your arms. Be like, hey man, let's take advantage of this. Get under my wing. I'll hold you. And that's what we try to do as leaders. Like, jump on my coattails if you need, or let me hold you. Like, we'll go through this together. And as first sergeant, I'll walk down any path you want to go down. I'll be there with you all the way to the bitter end. Whether it's I'm taking your boots at the gate, or watching you get Levito walk across the stage at NCOA, right? I'll be there for whatever path you want to walk down. But find those other people that'll do it. Like, I'm not your first sergeant. You have a first sergeant, but if you see me around the base, I mean, I'm an airman. You know what I mean? There's a bunch of airmen in here. I think you could probably walk and talk to anyone. The reason people are here is because they care, right? Just because of a certain rank of a person doesn't mean you can't stop them in the BX. Be like, hey, I remember you sitting on that stage. You got a minute? I'll tell you right now, I always have a minute. I have a minute at 2:30 in the morning when you call me. I was gonna say, so I always have a minute. We cross paths. I extend that to anyone. Sometimes wearing the diamond, that happens. People will see it in the BX and say, hey, you got a second? Yeah. But take advantage of that spotlight. The airmen that I see be the most successful after punishment is when they had that spotlight on them. That was it. They were gone. They were like, other airmen around them couldn't keep up.
Yeah, I'd say just, you talk about spotlight versus headhunting. I mean, I think I've felt both of those. Like I told you guys, my first supervisor, my first section chief was like, I'm going to kick you out. So that's headhunting. So I knew I was getting from the straight. So he kind of set the standard and set the stage for what I had to do. Don't allow them to headhunt. Don't give them any excuses to kick me out. And then, but spotlight is I see the weapons patch on you. So there's a lot of ways to get in the spotlight in the weapons community. Go over, kick ass in the load barn. Go over and do your loads right. Be the great. Were you 1 man, 2 man, 3 man?
I'm a 2-man at Slick.
Yeah, be a good 2-man. Just help your crew out. Make your supervisor happy. That's how you stay in the spotlight. Win weapons. Low crew of the quarter. Do those things. That's how you excel in the spotlight in your job. When I got in trouble, man, I just went to work. I just went back to work and just tried to do the best I could. Give nobody any reason to doubt my abilities. At least, working on aircraft and all that. I think that's what saved my butt a lot. It's because my personal life was a disaster. So I was a pretty damn good crew chief. So that saved me a lot. So just go to work, man.
Also, I think be honest. If you're kind of thrust in the spotlight or got into the spotlight one way or another and you're feeling burnt out, or you feel like your duties are getting away from you, or you're being asked to do things that you don't really know how to do, or anything is making you uncomfortable, raise your hand, be honest. Be like, hey, we're getting to the point, I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, I'm not sure, I need some extra training on this. There's help to be had. And be honest with where you are, because a lot of times, it's like, fly too close to the sun, and then it's a big crashing. We get in those headhunting kind of scenarios. Best way to do that is just personal management. Know who you are, know what you can handle, and get help when you can.
my only thing is to take that headhunting, like take that just a little grain of salt. There's a lot that goes into acting on an active duty member. So it's not just, yep, we're done with this airman, we're getting them out. It's not that simple. I would really, really take back the spotlight and your response to whatever, right? Own it. You need to be the first person and the last person there, right? Ask for more responsibilities. Do great work. Find the SMEs that you can take their place, right? If there's someone who everyone goes to and you just got in trouble, you need to flip the script and find that person. Why do they always go to him? Why do they always go to her? Right? Drain them of their knowledge and make them come to you. Right? Turn the conversation around about you while you're in the spotlight, like Shirt says, and man, the whole conversation will change. It will be awesome. Like he said, run with it. Right? Oh, you're looking at me, watch everything I'm about to do. Put your head down and do the work, like Chief says. And it's amazing what can happen. But the best thing to me that helped me was I knew what it was like to get in trouble. I knew what those conversations were like as an airman and the good things that they taught me. And yes, there was some oversight or what feels like micromanaging, but it's only because those people care. So when your airmen get in trouble, and if you're that person, you can help them as well, right? You can navigate that level of conversation with them versus not having any experience. So use the spotlight. Don't focus on the headhunting. That is really hard. And you have to do something pretty egregious for a whole command team to just end your career. Okay?
One in the back, yes ma'am.
But in this audience, I would love for us to just be aware of what do we do if we are, or other people are in those situations where it's not an empowering environment, even if they get in trouble, even not all of us are always going to be there, not everyone in the military is in this conversation, but we are, so we can make a difference. What can we do if we were in an environment that is extremely disempowering, where the resources aren't known to just the airmen, and they might be afraid of speaking up, because that is a real thing. They're intimidated. There's some airmen that are so intimidated, they'll put to themselves. I have the privilege of hearing, right? They'll put to themselves about the structure of leadership and not understanding their self-power. But then when it comes to like trying to navigate that and create an inspiring, empowering environment, it's kind of difficult. So when they do receive that disciplinary action, it's almost like, okay, self-defeat. Oh, they do this. They're always like this. They have it out for me. How can I empower those types of people? How can I show them? Because I'm not. I don't really know how else to word it. I just want to. I would hope that when it's me and I'm in charge of an entire facility, or I'm in charge of multiple groups of people, not just onesies, twosies, that I can foster an environment of empowerment where they're not afraid of going home stressed out because of the way the environment is held. Because it starts with us. Yes.
So,
Sorry.
you already said it. It starts with us. So, I'm gonna steal this one from the senior leaders because this is an NCO thing. So, Major Goebel already said it. Multiple chiefs have already said it. The first sergeant already said it. If you're in an earshot to hear about this, then you're in a position to do something about this, and that's for everybody, right? One thing to understand is, and I'll quote the great Master Sergeant Ashby. He's retired. He was my suit for the last year and a half before he got out. Not everyone is shiny pennies. That's okay, right? It's okay. It's okay to come to work and do your job. It's okay to not be an all-star. That's okay. We need those people because they keep the wheels rolling, they keep the planes flying, they keep the people fed. It's what it is, right? But the positive publicity piece of it is just that. If you have the opportunity and you're not taking advantage of it or making the most of it, then it is what it is. And for NCOs in the room, it's our job to make sure they are educated and understand that this publicity is a good thing and that they can bounce back. But again, it's how much they want it. I have a rhetorical question because I already know the answer to it, but a few of my folks that came brought it up yesterday. We had somebody that got in trouble And they were in the position where they thought their rebuttal to an Article 15 was them rebutting what the punishment was. You don't have that power as an airman, that's number one. Number two, you don't really get to choose what your punishment is. The rebuttal is your time to talk, to take ownership, to really, hey, this is where I'm at. I may tell Major Goebel here, sir, I'm remorseful, sir, I'm this, that, and the other. But when he does a change of command, and the next guy or girl comes in and sees it, and they're in command, it's not my official record and my PIF, and it never happened. You were never that remorseful, you were never that person. So that was due to the lack of education from their NCOs around them, up and down the chain, right? But I encourage that individual to backdate an MFR, right, in reference to their Article 15 proceeding. They were, either they were confused on how it went, whatever, but hey, this is where I'm at. I didn't understand it then, I understand it now, and I am sorry. I do want to move on. I do want to rehabilitate. But again, you've got to be that NCO. Whether you're in charge of them or not, in charge of the whole facility or not, be that intrusive NCO. Chief Barnshaw said it. Everybody said it. Be intrusive, whether they're yours or not.
See, that's a lot to unpack, right? So I'm going to try to be really quick, which is really hard for me. So I think we got to have an honest conversation first off. And I get everything you say, and I agree with everything you said. You cannot make a decision and deal with consequences and quote unquote have to walk around on eggshells and be pissed off about it when you're the one that cracked the eggs. Like it is what it is. Like don't get mad that you have to walk around on eggshells when you're the one that cracked them. Right? Just understand that what it is, and let's press forward. You hit on a key word, educate. I do not like being thought of as inspirational and motivational. It's great, I'm humbled by it, that's not what I want to be. What I want to be is education. I want to learn how to educate you on how to motivate and inspire yourselves, because I'm not always going to be here, and this team up here is not always going to be there with their pom-poms to cheer you on. What happens then? We have to educate people to see their self-worth. We have to educate people to raise their standards, because you are right. And it's the norm rather than the exception that a lot of us are going to be placed in environments that aren't empowering, to be in a place where you walk into work every day, whether or not you put a uniform on it every day or you're working on the civilian side, like 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows in the greatest work environment. You hear people talk, most of them hate their work environments. So how do we raise our own standards? We need to start educating people on how to do that. One of the things you heard throughout, right, is taking advantage of the spotlight. I stepped up, that Article 15 changed me, I got into work. What it sounds like to me is that everybody up here raised their personal standards. I don't give a shit if it's taking the trash out. It's going to be the best damn trash taken out you've ever damn saw, right? If you can raise your personal standards, everything else will fall in place. It takes time. But that's how you do it. That's how we get those, let's just say, non-shiny pennies, right? If they just raise their own, I love the core values. It's not perfection in all we do, it's excellence in all we do. And every single person in here has a different level of excellence. And if you're not trying to reach yours, then you are failing. You're failing you. That's what we have to teach folks, right? Everybody's level of excellence is different. We got to focus on educating, not just being, the pom-pom wearers, because what happens, like you said, when you're not there, or a member PCSs and goes to a crap environment, right? How do we instill that internal locus of control? That I have control over this. I don't have control over, I think I lost him. I don't have control over the head hunting or all this. I have control over my actions, right? And then we go from there. See, that was quick. Boom.
I just got one thing. I'd say be consistent. I walked into the med group 2 months ago, and I talked about accelerate, change, or lose, right? The action orders from General Brown. And everyone looked at me like I was crazy, because in the med group, they focus on patient care. It's been a challenge to get them to understand accountability, and that it starts with us. I heard comments like, man, I've never seen my first sergeant walk around so much. I didn't even know who my first sergeant was, right? That is disheartening as a leader. But if you're consistent, then you can change the context of the conversation, right? It can go from, man, everything here sucks, and wow, she always shows up, right? Be the first person at work and greet everybody, right? Change the context of the conversation, and then you can get to the great things. But first, you got to build trust in you as a leader, as us as a leadership team, to make the right decision, right? To act in the things that we preach or as we preach. Because you do the opposite, you lose everything. But if you can show up and do all the things that you want your work center to look like, people will follow you. You can do it. But it's going to take some work for sure.
2 things real quick. Number 1, we can't save everybody, but we are going to work our damnedest to try and do it anyway. And that's not just on leadership, that's not just on JAGs, that's not just on supervisors, that's on every single person who's a big A airman. We can't save everybody, but we're going to try our damnedest to do it anyway. That's who we are, right? And the second thing is, if you're in a position or know somebody who's in a position, LOR, LOC, anything like that, Article 15, go see the ADC. Here at Eglin, it's a her. Go see her and listen to her. She's going to give you good advice. She's going to put you in the right perspective. And if your unit isn't empowering you to understand your options, the ADC certainly will.
Thanks for the question, because there's a lot of emotion, like you cared a lot about getting that across and making sure that we understood. So thank you for asking me. So you can't, the Air Force isn't for everybody. And that's okay too. Like some people think they know what it's going to be, and they sign up and they get there and it just doesn't match them at all. And sometimes we can bring them along, sometimes we can't. And that's fine. Another thing too about inspiring people, like, hey, that's part of our job as leaders. So find the ways that you do it, find out what works well for you, be sincere and genuine about it. Because if you're fake about it, people are going to know. They're going to smell that out. Right, so don't, like, if you're not a sunshiny, rainbowy person, like, don't pretend to be a sunshiny, rainbowy person. Like, it comes off kind of creepy, right? It's not gonna work. Then again, if you think you want to be, like, I wanted to be like a Clint Eastwood, like real stoic, quiet kind of leader, and that's not me. Like, I'm a kid from Jersey, or my heart on my sleeve, and that's just where I'm at. So be that light the way that you are, but also know that it's okay for people to be grumpy. Some people are just naturally grumpy people. They're not gonna want to say hello back to you in the morning. They're not gonna want to put up a big smile. Like that's fine. If they're doing their job and they're responsible and they're getting it done, like that's okay too. There's a difference between grumpy and disrespectful, right? Which we gotta kind of figure out. But not everybody's gonna respond to your like inspirational message right away, and that's fine too.
I'm a Sergeant myself in the 33rd Maintenance Squadron. I'm currently on the UAF, and I'm trying to take the spotlight and do good things. And I was just wondering advice from you guys on how to excel via like a quarterly award or something. Because I was looking to do it this quarter, and I was already told that I wouldn't get awarded anything because I'm on the observation period of my UAF. How would you recommend documenting the success of what I do, other than the direct result of the action?
I just have one thing.
Yes, sir.
Prove them wrong. You still have to compete. Those people have to compete against what you submit. If your supervisor says, "Oh, we're not going to put you up," then load their email with every single thing you've done. Lead events, right? Stand out. Put it in front of them and be like, "Oh, damn, they did a lot. I can't even submit this person because this person did way more, but they have a UIF." Right? Prove them wrong. That'd be my 2 pieces. That would motivate the hell out of me if you told me I couldn't do something.
Sounds good, thank you.
No, yeah, old hammer, sir.
You're not tough. And not just that might be one supervisor or one person in the team kind of telling you that. There's other folks, right? And so one of the things that's really strong, I'll get into kind of like EFTP discussions a little bit, right? At the squadron level, I have different flight chiefs, and they're all talking about their folks and who's most competitive. When there's folks, flight chiefs from other flights that know about someone else's airman because they've been doing so much, man, that goes a long way. That goes a long way, right? So if you're able to engage not just in your silo, but other places, it can be in terms of volunteering in different clubs, or it can be just stuff at work. Find a way to branch out. And maybe they've got some sort of policy. I've never heard of one, where, hey, this guy's in this place right now, and so we're gonna have to wait to allow him to be submitted for a quarterly award. But if you're showing, hey, that you're raring to go the whole time, when the time does come up, if that's their policy, hey, they're gonna be excited to put you in. And they've probably been talking about it to other leaders in the unit too, so they're all tracked. And just the fact that you asked that question is huge.
It's a tough one, right? And I'm gonna say something and it's easier said than done. Like, first of all, my advice, Jason, stop caring about awards. Like, it is what it is, right? You have no control over that. I think you need to do what you need to do, right? And keep fighting to your supervisor, whatever you put in, prove them wrong, do all that. But once it leaves your hands, you have no control. And whether or not you win that award or do not win that award speaks nothing to your value. Please understand that. That goes the same for stratifications, that goes the same for force distribution. I see people come up short on these things all the time and think that dictates who they are as an individual and a human being, and that is a culture that we need to start to change, right? So, yes, I don't want you to stop striving, but if it doesn't work out, I don't want you to look in the mirror and think that you are less than, because that nothing could be further from the truth, right? I despise that. Two things. One, if you want to gain influence with other people, and I mean influence in a good way, be of value. Whatever the hell that means. Be of value. That is how you gain influence. You be of value to others. If your supervisor values one thing, provide it. If your chief values, provide it. Just be of value, and that's how you start gaining influence, right? And I love the fact that you talk about other shops talking about other shops' airmen, right? That is huge, right? Because I'm gonna tell you, I can't speak to your leadership, but you will come across leaders who are absolute buzzsaws, who, I'll tell you me, I don't give a shit if you were the best on the team. I give a shit if you are the best for the team. Sometimes they are not the same. You need to focus on being the best for the team. That is how you get other NCOs and section leads to start talking about you.
I agree with Chief in the sense of the awards, man. Don't worry about the awards. I'll tell you, I won my first award as a senior master sergeant select. Never. And the only reason I got that award is because my buddies put me in for it without me knowing, just so I could say I was a senior the first time I got an award. They didn't want me to be able to say that, so I got a quarterly award. So I got my first decoration as a master sergeant. Now I have 5 MSMs. So don't worry about the awards. Don't worry about the decks. It doesn't stop you. You just got to put in a little extra work other places if you don't get it. That's all I got.
Yeah, I would say just keep that momentum, that same momentum you have, right? Take advantage of that momentum. Keep going. You don't need quarterly awards. You don't need annual awards. Eric Nardacci's never won a quarterly award, and I've been in the Air Force 20 years. I've won a few annuals, but it wasn't until late career, right? It wasn't awards that defined me. Just keep doing great work. Eventually, you're going to be someone's go-to. When someone has to build a team, they're going to be like, that's the guy. That's the guy for this position. That's the guy for this position. Just become someone's go-to. Like in maintenance, everyone's got a go-to airman. When I was a pro super on the flight line, I had my go-to airman. Some of them had UIFs. Some of them were getting kicked out of the Air Force. They were still my go-to airmen. And I would be the pro super that's sitting in an EFDP, and I would sit there on the wall because none of my airmen, as a pro super, I only had expediters, right? So I would sit in there and be like, when we're talking about maybe senior airmen staff, I'd be like, that's one of the best airmen you have on the flight. They'd be like, well, he's got all this riddled pats. I'd be like, I don't care about that side of the red line. I'm just telling you right now, we're talking about a Knuckle Buster Award. Knuckle Buster Award is a turning wrench person. He is the best you have. So just be someone's go-to airman, right? And eventually, you take care of the job, the Air Force will take care of you.
So I'll say something from a mid-level supervisor perspective, right? Major Goebel elaborated on it a little bit. Senior leaders don't always know what's going on at a ground level, right? They don't. Chiefs, first sergeants, commanders, JAG, you're gonna find out about it once it gets to that point. But not everybody knows what's going on. So if you're busting it at that level, because I can tell you from my squadron, right? There's 500 of us. Unfortunately, awards do matter, right? They do. That's just how it goes in today's Air Force to a degree, right? Your work ethic and what you do is gonna pay dividends for sure. But my thing would be if you were getting somebody like that, hey, the buck stops with me, you are not developing, maybe they need to be educated on the fact that once this man or woman in a position of authority, a competent commander, makes the determination, nobody else gets to judge you, right? That's beyond approach at that point. You have already been judged, you have already been waited on, the punishment is there. You're now trying to rehabilitate yourself. If somebody's being a roadblock or a stumbling block for you, circumvent them. Go somewhere else. Because again, if you're here, then the expectation is for you to bounce back, for you to be a contributing member of the Air Force. So that's my 2 cents on it. And I'm sure your commander, if they knew about it, after giving you the punishment, wanting to see you bounce back, and they knew somebody was holding you back, I'm sure that'd be a problem too.
I know your commander. I'll talk with him. He's a very people-centered person. I think you'd like to know that.
It wasn't supposed to be a threat. Okay?
Yeah.
Everyone's like, oh,
that's like Vegas. What we said here stays here. I promise y'all.
Except for the camera.
I got one thing to close it out. Hey, so I don't know if y'all took notes or just mental notes, but take this back to your teams. Okay, you've got some good information, like when you're with everybody, or it's over lunch or on a break or smoking. Smoking's great, but I actually smoke too. Right, talk about this stuff. Like you were saying before, right? Kind of conversations like this have a good way of kind of spreading out. Right? So make sure it's the right information that's being spread, right? Not like little rumors and kind of little pieces. Get it out. Share the light. Okay, have that courage to stand up for yourself and stand up for your wingman, right? And push them in the right direction. Okay, so take this from here. That's, Sergeant Narred put this together. It's kind of his way to give back, right? To pay it forward from his situation, right? And we're lucky he invited us to come out, and what an awesome opportunity that we all jumped at it, right? Because we wanted a chance to do that as well. Okay, so now we've passed that onus on to you. Okay, and that's your job, right? The best way to learn is from someone else's experience. Okay, so you have today. So take that forward. Okay, and teach your women, teach your teams.
Cool. I'll ask this: if you did not sign in, please sign in, because what I would like to do, and if the senior panel member is okay with it, I'd like to do an org box. Don't whine about it. I know everybody's in org boxes, distro boxes. But what I'd like to do is a sharing of ideas, right? If you got something out of this today, you did something with it, or you need advice or feedback, I'll create a distro list. Hit that distro up, right? Ask the question, because the folks that are going to see your name on that distro that are here, senior panel members, they will jump at the opportunity to reach back out to give you some feedback, right? And if you enjoyed this and it's better than the typical bullet writing, decoration writing, records review, whatever, if you're an airman, hit up your ACE council. If you're an NCO, hit up the 5-6. If you're a senior NCO, hit up the top 3. And say you want something like this again, right? I moved this to the 5-6 back in November, and then it kind of died with me. But I felt burdened to put this on and to get these folks here. And I really, really appreciate all of you coming out and taking the time. It was fun getting all these senior leaders on one schedule, so that's kind of why this was last minute. And again, we do appreciate everybody coming. Tell a friend. We will try to work with 5-6 or Team Eglin, our page, and maybe do some editing with this video, but we'll get it pushed out. And that's all I got.
Thanks, guys. It's here for Sergeant Narred. Put us together.